Hello and welcome to 209 Prep Sports Media. We will utilize this podcast and various social media sites to share information, highlight weekly matchups, promote the talent of the 209, and most of all, create a platform for our athletes. In an era dominated by social media and internet, we've also lost print media and the writers who loved writing about prep sports. Some of them have their own social media accounts where they freelance and cover sports. Some are writing for a few newspapers still covering prep sports. And we hope to have some of these writers on as weekly guests to share their insights, thoughts, and ideals about the various hot topics of the week. Hello, and welcome back to 209 Prep Sports Media in the studio this week with Scott Bryant and myself. So we're back to the full team. Lots of good stuff happening this week. We got some baseball games jumped off. Some softball games got going. I know we're still dealing with I know that the T-Cal's in track. Some of the swim meets were finished up this last week. Cross country finished up this last week. And then we got some good news with, I believe it was last week with the opening of the indoor sports. So I think we now have the 80s hustling to try to get games scheduled for basketball and volleyball and the like, wrestling and things like that. So, we're just, we went from a position of having, not a lot to talk about and almost being like a COVID central update center to now we have a ridiculous amount of games to cover in just a short 45 minutes. So we're going to jump right into it. We'll start with the review of last week, and just so everybody's on the same page, we're not trying to skip over any sports like that, but it's going to be very difficult to cover that many sports all at the same time. So we'll primarily focus on football for this next month, because football will wind down, and then we'll kind of get more highlighting the other sports. Basketball should get started by about then, and baseball and softball and those will be right in the middle of it. So this week we had some pretty decent contests. We only had 3 in our section. So Argonaut opened with Liberty Ranch at Liberty Ranch, it looks like, and Argonaut put it on them pretty good, 43-7. Nobody posted any stats, so it's hard for us to get a feel for what happened that day in that game, but it looks like Argonaut did pretty much whatever they wanted to that game. And I would guess, we played Liberty Ranch last year and they were a pretty decent team, so I'm imagining that they're pretty shorthanded due to the pandemic and things like that. And then we had Somerville open with Mariposa County, and Mariposa beat Somerville 19-6. We spoke to Coach Leveroux last week about Somerville and some of the things that they're going through. They got a late start, trying to figure out who they're going to play and things like that. So I'm sure that played into it as well. And then Scott, I'm sure that you have some stats there and things for the St. Mary's game, so you can go with that.
Yeah, and going back to the Somerville game, Coach, when we were speaking to him, I guess 2 weeks ago now, and he's preparing for this, he knew this was going to be a tough matchup for him. Mariposa always puts a great team on the field. They've got a pretty rich history in producing some really good football players. They actually have, I think, at least one Super Bowl champion came out of there.
Yeah.
With the Patriots, but that's for them. That's always going to be a tough hit on the schedule, and not to mention the fact that the difficulty he is in scheduling games with the, not more than one county apart and where they're located, which, is it's too bad because I think he's doing a good job of keeping up his numbers and that up there. But I guess, really the game of the week was going to be De La Salle St. Mary's. And in a normal season, this is one of those check marks that you put on your calendar, because it's going to be a great matchup. 2 veteran teams, 2 teams with obviously a long history of winning. De La Salle, I think, is still the record holder for most consecutive wins, but they took the field over in Concord, and it was a great football game. It came down to basically a 1-score game. De La Salle victorious 35-27. But we were able to get some good statistics from our local players. If you got to watch the game, you knew that Cruz Herrera and Nathan Amato both split time at quarterback, and Cruz was 8-17 for 100 yards. Completion percentage was 471%, and Nathan was 9 of 16 for 128 yards. So they both Their quarterback ratings were Cruz's was 80.5 and Nathan's was 77.1. So they both split time. It looks like they kind of were dealing with some of the same issues, a little rustiness. We saw a couple of missed snaps, couple of missed assignments on the line, and that's going to happen in your first game. But it's tough to make those mistakes against a De La Salle team that's going to capitalize on those.
Yeah, I was in attendance of the game, and we talked to Coach Franks as well. So it's kind of neat that we actually the two of the games that played last week were two of the coaches we spoke to last week. And so Coach Franks mentioned a few of the players like Nick Murray and Max Rascon and a couple of those other guys. Max ended up having a huge pick at the end of the game. In the fourth quarter, he had a one-handed snag for a pick, and runs it back 30 yards or whatever it was, and put them in a position where they got their last score to get within one score. So St. Mary's punches it in with like a minute 40 left in the game, converts a 2-point conversion, and then they try to onside kick and don't get it. And then one of the other players he spoke of pretty highly was Nick Murray, and Nick ended up with 16 tackles. I think 13 of them or 12 of them were solo, and then he had some assisted tackles, and Max, I believe, was 13 or so tackles as well. And I believe he mentioned Jaden Marshall, and Jaden had over 100 yards receiving with a touchdown. So it was a very good game. It was cold, really cold. It was probably it was a little over 40 degrees, but with the wind chill, it was probably in the high 30s or so. I thought St. Mary's played very well. Their line, you could tell, was a little bit under pressure the whole night. The De La Salle's just De La Salle. Before the game even starts, De La Salle's got like 100 kids on their sideline. Probably 80 of them are suited up. St. Mary's has around 30, 35. So you could already see the discrepancy to begin with. And, St. Mary's struggled a little bit because of, they just didn't have a lot of depth at certain positions. And so their interior linemen, gassed a little bit. But, they battled. They played very tough, considering I don't think De La Salle's lost since the mid-90s to a Northern California opponent. And that streak continues. But to play within a score, game one, I think if we talked to Coach Franks this week, I think he'd be very, very happy with that outcome.
Yeah, definitely. And just to kind of go back into the stats a little bit, just Jaden Marshall, he was 7 receptions for 117 yards, his longest being a 50-yard reception for a touchdown. This kid's pretty special when you watch him play. There's really not a whole lot that he can't do. He's just a tremendous athlete, much like his brother, and he's, for people that get to watch the game, he's a fun one to watch. And like you said, Max Rascon, he's a kid that's really worked hard, I think, over the years to get where he's at, and obviously a difference maker for the defense. And so with those guys, I think you're going to see a much improved team in just 1 week when they play against Jesuit. And that's going to be a fun game to watch. I think that one will also be televised.
Yeah. The one good thing about this whole thing for, especially for out-of-towners, I don't think it's so good for the local fans, but is nearly every game is going to be televised. A lot of schools have converted to the NFHS platform, platform, and it's about $10 a month, but you're able to watch just about any game you'd like that actually is televised. And, most of these stadiums, like, for instance, like Linden, we've chose to go to schools, to play schools that have that system in place, which is good. In the D1 schools, a lot of them already have it. But, again, to watch that game play itself out, initially I think De La Salle goes down and scores. St. Mary's answers relatively quickly, misses an extra point, so they're down 7-6. St. Mary's gets a stop, goes down on their next possession, scores another touchdown. So they're actually up 13-7. And then De La Salle answers pretty quickly on the next possession. And so going into half, it's 14-13. I mean, if St. Mary's goes into half thinking, or if we ask Coach Franks, would you be happy at 14-13, at the halftime, I think he'd be extremely happy. For me, the player of the game that night was Nick Murray. Nick was all over the field. Kid played offense and defense, rarely came off the field. And that's no slight to anybody else. I thought Jaden Marshall had a heck of a game. I think that, again, Max had a really good game. Jazon Jacks played D end. He had a really, really good game. So there's some talent on that field. And, De La Salle's quarterback is a commit to Sac State. They got a kid with multiple Power 5 offers. Their safety was really, really good. So there was a ton of talent on the field. It was really neat to watch the opening game be against two such very talented teams. And I think they'd like to play it back. And I think, in the fall they're going to get that chance. So this St. Mary's team, is game. They showed up, and I think that it's at the end of the day, I think there's some. Nobody's happy with the loss, but I think, after being off for 400 plus days and being able to step on the field against, such a storied program and compete at the level you competed at, I think everybody's pretty happy about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback on your highlight of Nick Murray, he definitely was a big influence in this game. He had three receptions for 34 yards, but on the defensive side of the football, he had 16 tackles. That's in today's day and age, at this level of play, at this, and we're talking about level in terms of, the size of the school, you don't see kids that have that much of an impact on both sides of the ball like that. So he obviously had a great game, and if he keeps playing like that, I think St. Mary's is going to see a lot of success, and he's going to be, kind of leading the charge, so to speak.
Yeah, he should be. I don't know, and maybe as we evolve in this programming, we'll get Player of the Week and things like that. But if I had a vote this week, especially on a short schedule, I definitely would have given it to Nick. I personally watched the game and was very, very impressed. I think St. Mary's, if they have some things that they'll focus on this week, I think they're going to do work on their protection, protecting the quarterback. I think they were sacked 7 or 8, 9 times, something like that, and there was a lot of pressure all night long. But again, it's a very, very talented De La Salle team, so not to take anything away from them.
Yeah, absolutely. And just kind of the last note on that, I think St. Mary's is a program that's very well coached, and you won't see them making the same mistakes over and over. Their coaching staff does such a great job with those kids, and so again, I think this is going to be another good week for them. I think even though in the loss it was a loss, I think it was a good week. I think this week will be a good week for them also.
I agree.
What do we have? What do we got coming up this week?
So
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I was going to say, before I go there, how excited I get about matchups, and probably one of the most exciting matchups I think is going to be this week with Escalon Oakdale.
Oh yeah, so it's hard. It's really hard to tell for us right now because I don't think that Max Preps is completely accurate, and so you're going to see some things. So for what we have on our schedule, East Union Ripon open tonight on a Thursday night, and just so everybody's kind of on the same page and understanding this, we spoke to this 5 months ago when we talked about what the ramifications were going to be to put too many sports at the same time, and they're experiencing that now. So you have baseball and softball have both started, and you have football going on Friday nights. Well, there's baseball and softball games on Thursdays and Fridays, so the officiating crews are depleted. So you're going to see a lot of Thursday games this spring. You're going to see a lot of, obviously Friday games, but also some Saturday games. So tonight, East Union at Ripon, 7 o'clock. I know that game is definitively tonight because we have a big Ripon following, which is awesome for our program. And then it says that Big Valley Christian Somerville tonight as well, which I would assume is right because we play Big Valley Christian. Linden plays Big Valley Christian next week, and it's on a Thursday, and they spoke to their issues with having officiating issues. As we go down kind of the calendar, it's very difficult to see because some of these schools are on here twice. But if these things are right, you got Golden Sierra playing Argonaut this weekend.
That should be good.
Yeah, Linden, and not, I hate to talk about us, but we're part of it too. But so Linden goes to Lodi, for Linden to play a D1 school like Lodi and for the first time in who knows how long, So it's good. It's pretty exciting for us. The Neradora Stimba, should be a pretty good game. Western Ranch at Sierra. We spoke to the talent at Sierra, Manteca and Kimball, Tracy and Lincoln. If this schedule is right on Max Prep, that's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you get into Saturday and you have we said St. Mary's is going to go to Jesuit, and Escalon Oakdale is as of reading Max Preps, it looks like Escalon Oakdale is on Saturday. So
that Tracy Lincoln game, I think it's really going to boil down to is Tracy going to be able to stop Lincoln's running game? that's going to be the matchup to keep an eye on in a game like that, because that running back in Lincoln he's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Jonah Coleman is a very talented football player. Just committed to Arizona. Their quarterback is also very, very talented, Kenyon. And so they have these kids that, and then they got a transfer in a linebacker with a 3 or 4 star Tim Thomas. And they already had some pretty good talent, pretty talented guys. Jamarian Briggs is committed to Fresno State, so they have a very talented group at Lincoln. Tracy just, historically just does things methodically correct. They're just kind of a grind it and get it done type of an offense, and Lincoln is going to be a lot of flash, a lot of speed, a ton of speed. So that'd be a really exciting game. We just talked about it before we jumped on the podcast about it'd be neat to be able to go see these games in person.
Yeah.
And we just don't have that. We don't have that ability right now. And so hopefully when we get into the fall, it gets to open up, and it will change our podcast, because it was easy for me to speak to the De La Salle St. Mary's game because I saw it.
Yeah.
It's hard for us to go through, especially with people not putting stats in. It's hard for us to get a gauge of how the game really went.
Yeah. With that said, if you're a fan, if you're a team member, if you're a parent, whatever of a program, talk to your coach and just ask the coach if he needs help inputting stats or doing stuff like that, because these coaches have their hands full. They're teaching, they're coaching, they're trying to get their schedules to stay on track, so they really do have their hands full. I know that you can be a certified statistician. Can't even pronounce that right. Statistician. Is it Monday?
Somewhere.
But you can do that for Max Preps for your program. And so, if you're able to help the coaches out, I'm sure they would really like that, because all the coaches would love to see their players highlighted. And we'd love to do that for them. But it's just, it's really hard for us to talk about individual players when we don't get to see their stats. So,
we would also be more than willing to take a short write-up, if you saw the game, or if you can speak to your coach and get permission for the coach to kind of let you do a write-up and send it into us, so we have something to refer to during our podcast. You can reach us at prepsports209@yahoo.com. Again, prepsports209@yahoo.com, and just send us a short write-up, maybe highlighting a couple of the top performers, on the both sides of the ball. And just kind of give us a quick recap of what went down, and that'll help us, shine light on the programs that you have some affinity for. So,
yeah, definitely. We were talking about maybe jumping outside of football a little bit. It's really kind of surreal to be discussing football scores and then be able to jump right into some baseball scores. And so, here's what we had this last week. Again, we're pulling most of this information from online, and so if there's anything else that you can add, that would be great. We'd love to hear from you. This week we had Greg Marsh's Franklin Yellow Jackets play the Tokay Tigers. Final score was 7-4. And then Tokay played again the next day, beating West 7-4. So that puts Tokay at 2-0 thus far. Franklin then also played De La Salle, lost by a score of 8-1. I imagine De La Salle's baseball team is much like their football team. They probably put a very good team on the field. And then we had Tracy played Lincoln. Final score is 5-2. And then St. Mary's edged Lodi 4-3 on March 16th. And then we had a couple more. Liberty Ranch beating Galt 7-4 on Wednesday. So those are some of the baseball scores that we have from last week.
And again, a lot of these guys haven't put in statistics, but for us, I can kind of just highlight the top hitters of the week. It looks like Fidel Uloa batted 1,000 last week. He's 3 for 3 with 3 doubles. It doesn't show his RBIs, and he's out of Lodi. He's a senior infield pitcher out of Lodi. Aiden Hall from Galt was 2 for 3 this week, with 2 doubles as well. And then you have Cade Campbell, who's only a sophomore. Oh no, he's a junior. So Cade Had 8 at-bats, or 8 plate appearances. He was 3 for 5 this week with a couple of doubles. And then rounding it out at the bottom was Billy Machado at Lincoln. He's a senior. He batted 500 this week. He was 3 for 6. And since we're staying on the 500 hitters, Kyle Newport batted 500 at Lincoln of Stockton. He was 2 for 4. And Angelo Giannetti was also 2 for 4 this week. And again, we could sit here and go through all the statistics, but it's pretty difficult as you get down the list. We don't want to leave anybody out, but we got to cut it off somewhere. So let's talk about the hitters or the pitchers of the week, and some of the things that some of the people that had some success. So Fidel Aloa again, through 9 innings last week. Looks like he pitched in two of their games. And he's didn't give up any earned runs. Ben Gaff threw 5 innings for St. Mary's, also did not give up a run. Brett Grady, sophomore at Tokay, threw 4, didn't give up any runs. And then you go down the list. Luis Munoz at Tokay, pitched 3, gave up 1. Luis Montez at Lincoln, pitched 5, gave up a couple of runs. Strikeout leaders for the week across the board. We'll go ahead and go with our friendly name. Fidel Aloa had 20 strikeouts in 9 innings, so that's pretty dang impressive. And then No Mora, he had 16 strikeouts. That could not be right. Oh yeah, he had 6 strikeouts in 3 innings, so a pretty good outing for him as well. And then Sebastian Soto, he had 4 strikeouts in the 3 2/3 that he pitched. So like I said, we could go down the list, but it kind of flattens out there and everybody's kind of in the same boat. So exciting to get baseball started. We'll try to hit these weekly, just kind of talking about the weekly leaders and kind of who's leading the stat leaders amongst those as we talk about the scores.
Yeah, for sure. And we talked about Nick Murray kind of being our player of the week. We can't officially name all of those because we just don't have the entire landscape. But I guess on the baseball side, I think we could give the nod to Fidel Aloa. It sounds like he had a pretty good week.
Yeah.
So, if we had to choose, I think that's the direction we go. So congratulations.
Well, and again, I think for sure. And we're in a tough spot, guys. We don't have we're not privy to all the information. We're going to give you what we got. So please bear with us, and don't think that we're sliding anybody or leaving anybody out, because that's the last thing we're trying to do. This is what we're all about. We're trying to get these kids get some recognition and have somebody acknowledge their successes on the field. Yeah,
definitely. So with that said, we'll flip the script over to a little bit of softball. We had a few games this last week. It was nice to see the ladies hit the diamond. Once again, it's been well over 300 and however many days since they've gotten to play.
I think it was year to the day this week.
Yeah,
like the 13th or something like that.
Yeah, it's bizarre. So locally we had a couple of teams take the field. We had Galt played Rosemont. Must have had their new game jitters kind of get to them. They lost by a score of 20-2. And then right off the bat, we have a Lincoln Tracy score, which is, you don't expect to see first games of the year, but Lincoln edging Tracy 3-1. And then we had Tokay played West. Tokay won by a score of 5-1. And then again that same day, they had a doubleheader. Tokay played West Anchorage. That's a pretty long travel for softball, but I have to tell you, I'm not completely familiar with them. If they actually are from Anchorage, that's quite a trip to play a game and then lose 5-1. And then the Mark Miller's Linden Lions took on Big Valley Christian and ended up winning 6-1. On Wednesday the 17th, we had a couple more scores. We didn't get a final on the Houston Riverbank. And let's see here. Lincoln played Sheldon. Got blanked 15-0. But I'm thinking that might be the Lincoln of Lincoln. But it is kind of neat to highlight Sheldon. Sheldon is while they're just north of our purview. That's a team that year in and year out is in the national conversation. And so if they're on your schedule, you've got a pretty big hill to climb. They've sent a lot of players to D1 programs, and like I said, I think in the last 5 years they've been ranked 1 or 2 in the nation a couple times. So
Yeah, they're a
good
phenomenal program. I mean, they've got. It's hard. I mean, I don't know if looks like not many of the Sac Joaquin. I mean, our 209 local guy people have put in their statistics, but as you go down, like Scott mentioned, Sheldon has in the top like 10 hitters or 15 hitters, they have 7 of them. And these kids got 12, 13 at bats already, so they're playing 3, 4, or 5 games or 2 or 3 games probably more than likely already. And I see names as I go down the list. Dakota Kennedy, she's just recently committed. So there's some players out there, and those Jenna Birch, there's a few of them that go on. But the pitching statistics are up for this area, so I can go through those. You have Hannah Ortega. She threw 7 innings this week, struck out, or she threw 7 innings this week. Let me see what her strikeouts were. Yes, sir.
At the next level next year.
Yeah, so she threw, like I said, 7 innings, struck out 16. The leader. This is crazy. The leader is Aisa Silva. She goes to Elk Grove. She threw 28 innings already somehow, and has struck out 54. Peja Gould pitches at Lincoln. She threw 7 innings, struck out 13. Ariel Nava, St. Mary's. She threw 8 this week and struck out 10. And then you have you go down a little bit further, and you have Caitlin Rao at Big Valley Christian. She threw 6 1/3, struck out 7, and then we'll end up with Kayla Jones at Tracy. She threw 4 2/3 and struck out 6. So pretty good week, looks like, for a lot of the pitching. And it's a pitching dominated sport more than most of the time.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. If you've got good pitching, it's hard to overcome when you. The things that some of these softball players can do with a softball and the way they make it move, I tell you what, it's impressive. One thing I do want to say, a little shout out to one of our local players who signed her commitment this week to play at La Sierra University, Shelby Benedetti. So we're really proud of her and wish her the best of luck when she goes to play in college next year.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of success in our area. I mean, that was what was exciting for Scott and I when we started this whole podcast. And the games we've covered this week, there's been a lot. I know a lot of kids have offers. A lot of people have already committed, and there's a lot of people with a lot of attention being paid to them, in all sports. We have, St. Mary's, their baseball team is a very, very good baseball team. They got Max Ortega going to Oregon State. Ben Gaff, I believe, is going to Idaho. So there's a few kids in the area that have already committed to play at the next level. I know the Lincoln shortstop, his name escapes me right now, but he's committed to go to Oregon. So there's a bunch of talent, and the softball wise, it's as good as it gets. We're fortunately for a lot of us in NorCal, we're able to be 5 hours from Southern California, who they have a high school league in the fall too. So their girls are getting 100 games a year more or less, besides their travel ball team. So. And the more that our girls get to play against our area, gets to play against their area, the better we're just going to get. So, it's been a great week, for prep sports. This next week, it's going to get nutty for us, trying to be able to cover. You're probably going to have at least 20 football games. I mean, you're probably going to have more like 50 or 60 baseball, softball games. I know that the TCAL's running track right now. I don't know. We'll have to see if we can locate. I think there's a website that's just attributed to track, right?
Yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah.
But the TCAL's definitely had several meets. The way that they're running those meets kind of non-traditionally, because you usually would have 3 or 4 teams at any given meet that are just letting schools go head to head.
Yeah.
And the way they're running the meets, it obviously is different times. So. We'll try to find some of those, but again, it's just anything that people can feed us statistic wise, or time wise, or scoring wise, whatever you got, we want to hear it and highlight these athletes.
Or stories that we need to know. It's hard for us to cover the amount of schools that are across our section and the area that we're trying to cover, and know everybody at the down to the detail. For us, it's a 40,000 foot view. We need to get under the hood with some of these schools, and you guys need to those of you that are, loyal followers and listeners, we need to get, your schools involved, because this is what it's all about for us. For us, it's highlighting these kids, because these kids are busting their butt. And fortunately for us, we've got, the opportunity to play. Now, is it ideal? It's not. There's still a lot of hurdles that have to be jumped through. I mean, you have to test weekly right now in San Joaquin County. Actually, all the counties, I believe, we're still testing weekly for the contact sports and things like that. But it's better. The alternative is not playing. And it's unfortunate. Most places are only allowing 2 parents. So we can't even if we wanted to, we couldn't go and watch games.
Yeah. With that said, if Coach Beam from Escalon or Coach Merzon from Oakdale, if you're looking for a family member to go, you can adopt me, because I would love to see that football game. I think it's going to be a good one.
Let's talk about that a little bit, and then we'll wrap this thing up, because I think that's going to be. We talked about it. That's the highlight of the week, and there are some really good games. It's not putting shade on anybody else, but it's shining a light on those 2 programs for this particular week, because it's a matchup that we learned last week that hasn't happened in over 40 years.
Yeah, this is, when talking to Coach Beam, and I plan on talking to Coach Merzon here pretty quick, they're just, to say they're excited would be an understatement. I mean, again, these are unfamiliar times, and they're playing this game in the spring, but it doesn't matter. I bet you these, to use some terminology from one of our old football coaches, you could schedule the game anytime, anywhere. You could schedule it in Lucky's parking lot, and these guys would probably line up and play. That's just the type of programs they are. You talk about 2 hard-nosed football programs. When Coach Herrera had the football program at Escalon for a long time, I don't think Coach Beam is missing a beat there. I think he's taken the reins and is running a fantastic program. So, even though they're the small school down the hill from Trent Merzon and his Oakdale Mustangs, which they play, their style of play is very similar. They're hard-nosed. They come at you for 4 quarters. They don't take breaks. Just, nonstop contact, excitement. It just, to me, this is definitely the game of the week. Not the shadow, like you said, to shadow anybody else's game, not to shadow Linden's football game.
Yeah.
But again, the offer still stands. If Trent Merzon or Andrew Beam want to adopt me so I can be a family member and go to the game, I'm on board with that.
It's hard for us to know, who to highlight here. I do know that Jackson Holt, the quarterback at Oakdale, has probably had Coach Merzon scratch his head a little bit and mix up his typically run-dominated offense, because Jackson's got some Ivy League offers, and I believe he's got some schools looking at him right now. He's a kid 6'5", probably 200, 215 now. Has really worked hard in the weight room. I've watched him and tracked his growth, and the kid he doesn't lack work ethic. I mean, obviously he's an intelligent kid. I think he's got an offer from Yale and an offer from Columbia, and maybe some others. But again, he throws with one of the best quarterback coaches in the country, Danny Hernandez down in LA. And I've seen his workout videos, and he gets after it. Looks like they returned Zeke Safar as a running back from last year, and Dominic Reyes. It's tough for us too, because last year Max Preps wasn't the preferred vendor for scoring. I think it was some other vendor, and finally the CIF got their act together and brought the Max Preps back in, which helps us all because it's more centrally located. So we're excited about this week. I think it's going to be, personally, we're excited in Linden to get to play Lodi for the first time in Lord knows how long. So, yeah, it's exciting for all of us. We're gonna get some rain. These spring showers are coming, and so we're gonna, some teams are gonna be playing. Well, Ripon will be playing in the rain tonight, which will affect the game for sure. And I think both of them, are pretty run heavy offenses. So, it'll be interesting to see how things play themselves out. But we're excited about where things have gone. It's good for us probably in this day and age to get a podcast up and running, to have so much stuff going on all at once, because we're not going to be under such a microscope when we make our mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you brought up that last game too, the Ripon East Union game. That's an interesting one as well. again, it's a normally it's a small school plays small school. This is a small school plays big school, and should be a good game. Both well run programs. Ripon, I think you can go back as far as you want. Ripon seems to always put a good program on the field, and I think in recent times, East Union has been a very well coached team, and they've had some really good individual players come out of there. So that should be a good matchup.
Yeah, and Manteca, for all that it is, they have East Union, they have Manteca, they have Sierra. I mean, Ripon's right in their backyard. I mean, you have some very, very successful programs all within a 20-mile radius of each other. So I think that the one, if there's a silver lining to this whole thing, is you are seeing the local matchups happening, and so, like we're 15 miles from Lodi, and we just have never played, anybody from Lodi. I mean, we do in baseball and I think basketball and volleyball, but, football is just kind of been an afterthought, more or less we're a small school, so it doesn't really benefit the big school in a playoff type of scenario. So it's interesting. It's exciting. I'm excited for the kids. We fortunately for us, we haven't heard any about the testing results, but 5-6 schools in Sacramento County are shut down for this Friday because they had some positive tests. And I believe there were a couple last week in our area that were shut down, but I'm sure there'll be something that comes out, and we won't share the particular schools. We don't want to focus on the negativity, but just again, we've preached it forever. Be patient. Understand that there's a lot of moving parts here, and everybody that's working their butts off to make this happen. They're gonna keep doing what they're doing, and let's just stay as positive we can, and just be grateful that the kids get to play. So,
thanks to all the coaches, all the teachers, and really a big thanks to the athletic directors for making all this possible.
Yes, sir. So we'll wrap it up there. We're looking forward to this weekend. Hopefully we get some good highlights in, and as we progress, we'll get the webpage up, and we'll try to start posting some scores and stuff there. So everybody have a great week. Stay safe. Look forward to seeing the results Sunday morning in the paper.